I want to take you back to a night I've never forgotten. A Thursday evening, standing in the Kingdom Hall parking lot after the meeting. It was quiet except for our whispered voices. Just a few of us girls, barely teenagers, cautiously tiptoeing around a question that we all felt but were too afraid to answer truthfully aloud. Do you think you'd ever leave? We looked at each other, wide-eyed and silent. The pause said more than words ever could. Eventually, we all shook our heads. No, of course not, we said. But it was a lie we told to each other and to ourselves. Deep down, I think we all knew the fact that we were even asking meant something wasn't right. Even in that silence, the seed of doubt had a voice. We just weren't ready to hear it yet. Funny enough, those same two girls, they're ex-JWs now, just like me. It's been over 25 years since that night. I actually reconnected with one of them recently, and our stories, though lived apart, share eerie parallels. She too was dismissed by her parents. No relationship, no contact. The silence is its own kind of abuse. Not loud, but deafening. When I talk about my experience, some people say things like, Jehovah's Witnesses? No, but they're such nice, kind people. And I get it. On the surface, yes, they are. They are genuine, and they truly believe they are saving people. But that nicety, that kindness, it's not by accident either. It's by design. They have to smile. They're like walking billboards for the organization. Constantly performing what the religion calls the best life ever. But behind that performance are smiling people who are actually exhausted by the weight of perfection, terrified of being seen as anything but devout and happy for choosing that life. Within the organization, there's this constant surveillance. Everyone is watching everyone else. You're trained to report anything concerning, a bad attitude, doubt, even sadness, because those are signs not of normal human experience, but of spiritual weakness. Or worse, rebellion. So you learn to hide. You put on your meeting clothes. You paste on your smile. And you play the part. You live in quiet desperation. And as kids, that's what we did. We were already afraid of what could happen if we admitted we weren't happy, even to each other, even in whispers. It steals your voice before you even know you have one. You learn early that silence is safer than honesty, that obedience is louder than authenticity, and that being heard comes with consequences. Maybe you felt something like that. Maybe you're feeling it right now. If so, you should know. You're not crazy. You're not weak. You're not alone. Thinking back on my childhood in this, there isn't a singular moment when I knew I had to leave. It was more like a slow leak. Tiny cracks in the foundation that, over time, became impossible to ignore. It started with questions, quiet ones. The kind you don't dare say out loud, even to your closest friends. Why are we the only ones with the truth? Why does love have so many conditions? Is God really going to kill everyone? Almost? Why does everything feel so heavy? I'd suppress those thoughts, pray harder, study more, trying everything I was taught to do to silence that inner voice. And I had to silence that inner voice because I knew that it meant if I didn't, it meant risking everything. My family, my community, my identity. But no matter how hard I tried, that voice wouldn't go away. And eventually, I stopped seeing it as a threat and starting seeing it as my truest self. That voice, the one I was taught to ignore, turned out to be the most honest part of me. And once you let even a little bit of truth in, real truth, it changes everything. It's like a fog lifting. Suddenly, things you used to explain away or justify start to look painfully clear. It was like a beautiful kind of heartbreak. Finally realizing I was okay just as I was, free to believe whatever I chose, while also knowing that this was freedom shadowed by rejection from family and friends. Because the love in this organization is transactional, based on obedience, not authenticity. And I could never be good enough for them because I no longer believed. I wasn't willing to keep betraying myself just to stay acceptable in their eyes, no matter the cost. That realization was both terrifying and freeing. Once admitting to myself that I didn't believe it anymore, the next step was unavoidable. I had to leave. Not because I was weak or sinful, but because I wanted to live honestly, fully, without fear. And for the first time, I wanted to hear myself, not just repeat what I was told. Leaving came with a price, of course, and it's one I still live with. Years later, there are days when it hits me like a wave, out of nowhere. The silence during milestones, like the birth of my own children, the knowledge that in my mother's eyes, I'm dead. But here's what I focus on now: how much space that pain makes for something new. Real connection, real joy, real choice, and a chance to find my real voice. And not having a real voice is one of the hardest things about growing up in the Jehovah's Witnesses religion. For me, not just metaphorically, literally. At home, my mom could not hear me unless I was parroting something from a watchtower, the Bible, or a meeting. Anything else, my thoughts, my feelings, my questions, anything about who I was as a person, was ignored, shut down. None of it mattered unless it reflected or reinforced the religion. The constant dismissal chipped away at me. It silenced me. And over time, it made me feel invisible, like I didn't matter. Anything that didn't validate the religion was treated like it didn't exist, including me. I wasn't a child with her own mind. I was a project, a reflection of my mom's spiritual image. And when I didn't reflect what she wanted, I was labeled rebellious, difficult, unspiritual. But it wasn't just at home, it was built into the religion itself. At home, the way my mom treated me actually closely mirrored the behavior of the religious leaders and the broader culture of the religion itself. As a woman, you're never allowed to lead, never allowed to hold any real position of authority, just obedience, submission, silence. And I followed the rules for a long time. But rules that erase your voice eventually erase your identity. But silence doesn't mean agreement, and being quiet doesn't mean you don't have something to say. So now, here I am. Speaking out loud in my own words.
Come here, Charlie. Come here.
Starting this YouTube channel has been more than just healing. It's been liberating. It's the first time I've been able to tell my story without it being filtered through someone else's judgment, someone else's narrative, most notably my mother. For so long, I lived in my mom's shadow, my voice being overshadowed by hers. I know she and others in her circle view me as a rebellious apostate, someone dangerous, someone mentally diseased, as the organization calls it. And because I'm no longer there to defend myself, they just fill in the blanks. Their version of who I am becomes the only one people in that world ever hear. But this channel is my way of telling the truth, my truth, not theirs, not the organization's, mine, out loud, without apology. And that matters because stories have power, voices have power, and for the first time in my life, I'm using mine. And admittedly, sometimes I catch myself wondering, why am I still processing this? It's been decades. Why am I making an entire YouTube channel about this? And maybe you felt something similar, like you should be over it by now, like the years passed and should have dulled the sting. But the truth is, when you've spent your formative years in a high control group, the impact doesn't disappear just because the time passed. You were trained to see the world a certain way, to doubt your own instincts. That doesn't vanish overnight. There are still days, even now, when something triggers a memory or I hear a phrase I used to hear in the meetings, and it just takes me right back. But that's okay. Healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about learning how to live with it. It's about reclaiming your own mind, your own heart, and your own story, one piece at a time. And one of the most powerful ways we do that is by using our voices. For so long, we weren't allowed to speak our truth. We were told what to think, how to feel, and who to be. Silence was expected, especially if we doubted, if we questioned, if we saw cracks in the foundation. But silence only serves the system that hurts us. Speaking up, even if it's messy or imperfect, is a radical act of healing. Every time you tell your story, you chip away at the shame. Every time you say, "This is what happened to me," you remind yourself and others that your experience matters, that you matter. So if it still affects you, whether you left this year or 30 years ago, just know you're not behind, you're not weak, you're healing. And healing takes as long as it takes. But I know this, finding your voice, telling your truth, isn't just part of healing, it is healing. If you're watching this and you're somewhere on your own journey, maybe just starting to question or maybe already out but still healing, just know it's okay to take your time. It's okay to feel scared, and it's okay to choose you. Because despite what they told us, there is life on the other side, and it can be beautiful. And if any part of this resonated with you, I'd truly love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters, your story matters, and when we share, we remind each other that we're not alone.